So think about how we usually, try to wrap our heads around the human mind, moods, behaviors, all those struggles.
Right. It's often felt a bit indirect, hasn't it?
Yeah, like trying to guess what's inside a machine just by listening to the noises it makes instead of actually looking under the hood.
Mm.
But what if we could pick inside the brain itself?
Well, that's exactly where brain imaging comes in. It's such an exciting development. For ages, mental health understanding was based on observation, self-reporting.
Things you can tell someone, not things you can see.
Exactly. But now technologies like SPECT, they give us a much more direct view, a window into brain activity.
Okay, let's dig into that. SPECT, single photon emission computed tomography. Sounds pretty complex.
It does, but the core idea is straightforward.
So the mission for us in this deep dive is really to unpack the key insights coming from, well, tons of these brain scans. How is this tech changing how we see mental health, behavior, neurological stuff? And importantly, what does it mean for you listening right now?
Precisely. The material we've looked at, it covers such a broad range from like fine-tuning diagnoses to crafting super specific treatments and even, shifting how society views these things. It's a major shift.
Okay, let's get right into it then. It sounds like brain imaging isn't just some extra tool. It's more like a fundamental change in how we even approach understanding the brain.
Oh, absolutely. It's a paradigm shift, really. We're moving away from just looking at symptoms, the outward signs, to actually observing the organ responsible for those symptoms.
The brain itself in action.
Right. We can look at its structure, we can track blood flow, which tells us about activity, we can see which areas are working hard, which aren't. Well, it's huge.
And Specto seems like it's particularly good at giving us that kind of detailed picture.
Yes. What's really powerful about SPECT is that it provides this three-dimensional map of brain activity and
So
circulation.
not just a flat image.
No, think of it more like sophisticated weather radar for your brain. It shows where the storms of activity are, or the calm areas, all in 3D. It helps us pinpoint regions that might be overactive, underactive, or just doing their thing normally. It makes brain function feel much more tangible.
Yeah, you can almost visualize it, these zones lighting up differently. And one thing that really jumped out from the sources is how even if people have very similar symptoms, their brains can look surprisingly different underneath.
That's such a critical point. We tend to lump people together based on symptoms, right? Like anxiety or depression.
Hmm.
But the scans show incredible individuality. Two people feeling anxious might have completely different neurological activity patterns driving that feeling.
Wow.
So a big takeaway for you is that just because symptoms look the same doesn't mean the underlying brain situation is the same. Our old one-size-fits-all approaches, they might be totally off base for some people.
Which leads right to the next logical step. If every brain is unique like that, treatment probably needs to be unique too, right?
Exactly. It connects directly to this whole trend of personalized medicine. Brain imaging gives us the specific neurological data needed for truly tailored treatments.
So what helps one person with, say, depression might not work for another.
Precisely because the underlying brain activity could be fundamentally different. Imaging helps figure that out.
Okay, so this could really shake up how we even diagnose conditions, moving beyond just symptom checklists.
Towards something more biologically informed, yes. Traditional psychiatric diagnosis relies heavily on symptom clusters, which is useful, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't always tell the why from a biological standpoint.
It's more descriptive than explanatory, maybe.
Kind of, yeah. Brain imaging offers a path to diagnoses that are grounded in the actual physical organ. This could mean getting the right help to people much sooner.
And it's not just for conditions we already label as mental health issues, is it? The material mentioned scans uncovering hidden things.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the most eye-opening aspects. Sometimes scans reveal completely unexpected physical issues, things like cysts, old injuries, maybe even signs of inflammation that are actually causing what look like behavioral or emotional problems.
Things you'd never suspect otherwise.
Right. Issues that might be totally missed in a standard evaluation. And the crucial part is, some of these underlying physical problems are treatable. Addressing them can lead to dramatic improvements in behavior and mood.
That's incredible. Thinking about someone struggling for years and then finding a treatable physical cause in the brain. Those stories must be powerful.
They really are. They highlight how this technology can shift the focus from just managing symptoms to potentially identifying and resolving the root neurological cause.
And you mentioned injuries.
hmm
It seems even bumps to the head we might brush off could be more significant than we think.
That's a really important point for everyone listening. We know severe head trauma has lasting effects, but the research emphasizes that even seemingly minor head injuries can cause subtle but significant long-term changes.
Changes in thinking, mood, behavior.
Exactly. Things that imaging might pick up when other tests don't. It could explain symptoms that might otherwise just be confusing or, dismissed.
Which kind of connects to understanding behavioral disorders more broadly, too, maybe even in the legal system.
It definitely has implications there. When we frequently see differences in brain function in individuals with, say, impulse control issues or aggression, including those in the justice system, well, it suggests neurological assessments could be really valuable.
For understanding, maybe even for rehabilitation.
Potentially, yes. It opens the door to addressing underlying brain health factors that might be contributing to harmful behaviors.
But it's not all about finding problems, is it? The material also talks a lot about the brain's ability to heal and adapt.
Yes, thankfully. That's the concept of neuroplasticity. Think of it like muscles getting stronger with the right exercise. The brain can actually reorganize itself, strengthen connections, and improve its function.
So even if there's damage or an area isn't working well,
There's often potential for rehabilitation. Things like targeted cognitive exercises, nutrition changes, neurofeedback, certain lifestyle adjustments, they can all help the brain recover and perform better. It's a very hopeful message, actually.
and we're seeing this applied in real-world situations, like with athletes.
Right. Studies on retired athletes from contact sports are particularly interesting. Scans have shown brain issues linked to repetitive trauma, but importantly, rehabilitation programs using some of these methods have led to measurable improvements on follow-up scans.
So it shows recovery is possible, even after years of impact.
Exactly. It's tangible proof of the brain's potential to bounce back with the right support.
It also shines a light on things like substance abuse, maybe showing the impact more clearly.
Yes, the effects of alcohol and drug use on the brain, well, they can be quite stark on scans. Imaging can show accelerated brain aging and impaired function.
Which could be a motivator for change.
It can be a powerful one, yes. Seeing the visual evidence can be impactful. And it also helps guide recovery plans tailored to the specific areas affected.
Okay, here's one that seemed a bit unexpected in the material. Anesthesia awareness. How does imaging play a role there?
Ah, yes. This isn't about being aware during surgery, but more about the subtle cognitive effects some sedatives and anesthetics might have after a procedure. Brain scans are helping researchers understand these potential impacts better.
So it could lead to better post-op care.
Potentially, yes. Improving strategies to minimize any lingering effects on brain function after anesthesia.
And it's not just things we ingest. Our environment plays a role too. Toxins and such.
Definitely. Exposure to things like mold, carbon monoxide, certain industrial chemicals, these can actually damage brain tissue or disrupt function. Imaging can be a tool to help identify if such environmental factors might be contributing to someone's symptoms.
It really broadens the picture of what influences brain health.
It does.
All of this seems to be pushing towards a different way of talking about these issues, like reframing mental health as brain health.
That reframing is really significant, I think. If we talk about brain health, it helps reduce stigma, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds more medical, less judgmental somehow.
Exactly. It moves us towards a more compassionate, science-based view, like how we discuss heart health or liver health. It's about an organ that needs care. This perspective can be really helpful for you and for society.
Yet it even has implications for education, helping students learn better.
Potentially, yes. Think about students with ADHD or autism or dyslexia. Neuroimaging could give us deeper insights into their unique neurological profiles.
And use that to tailor how we teach them.
Precisely. Design learning environments that play to their strengths and support their challenges based on a better understanding of their specific brain function. It could really help optimize learning for everyone.
Taking that wider view again, what about things like justice and health policy?
Big implications there, too. In the justice system, as we touched on, understanding brain factors could lead to more effective rehabilitation, maybe less reliance on purely punitive measures.
And in health policy,
It could drive more evidence-based approaches to mental health care funding and delivery, pushing for access to these kinds of assessments and targeted treatments.
it feels like if people understood these benefits more widely, it might encourage earlier action.
That's a key hope. Greater public awareness could lead to earlier detection for people who are struggling or at risk. Imagine catching things sooner, avoiding years of maybe misdiagnosis or ineffective treatment.
Getting the right help faster.
Exactly. Reducing suffering and improving long-term outcomes.
So the ideal isn't throwing out everything we used to do, but adding this layer of understanding.
Absolutely. It's about integration. The best approach seems to be combining traditional psychiatric assessments, the clinical interview, history taking, with the biological insights from brain imaging.
Getting the whole picture.
Right. A fuller, more actionable understanding that leads to truly personalized and effective care for mental wellness.
And throughout all of this, the really positive, empowering message seems to be that brains can change for the better.
That's probably the single most important takeaway for you listening. Our brains aren't fixed in stone. Regardless of genetics, past trauma, whatever challenges we face, brain function is modifiable.
There's potential for improvement.
Significant potential. With the right information, the right care, targeted interventions, people can genuinely enhance their cognitive health, their emotional well-being. It gives a real sense of agency, hope for real, lasting change.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into brain imaging, especially SPEC,
Mm.
it really does offer this incredibly powerful, personalized lens on the brain.
It certainly does. It moves us past just observing symptoms from the outside and lets us see the underlying neurological reality in a new way.
Which has massive implications for diagnosis, treatment, how we understand ourselves, really.
Absolutely. It touches everything.
And that kind of leads us to a final thought for you, the listener. Given everything we've talked about, this potential for super personalized insights, for targeted interventions based on brain scans, what kind of broader shifts might we see coming down the line in how we handle mental health, sure, but also education, maybe even justice?
Yeah. What does society look like when brain health becomes as central as physical health?
Exactly. It's definitely something fascinating to think about and to keep exploring as we learn even more about this amazing adaptable organ inside our heads.